While Choi and the others were in the boss's chamber, Taijin was utilizing Hyun's ability to navigate the snake cave. Hyun possessed a unique skill that allowed him to absorb magical energy from incoming attacks, reshape it, and return it to the attacker. The more energy he absorbed, the stronger the counterattack, with its potency depending on the user's capacity. By combining this absorption skill with the fireball technique, Taijin and Hyun created a new skill they dubbed the collaborative Hell Train. Hyun moved at incredible speed through the snake cave, covering a significant distance, but fatigue set in midway, and his strength began to wane. Taijin asked him coolly if he could still handle more fireballs, to which Hyun, though exhausted, replied affirmatively, reigniting his determination as Taijin urged him to reach the boss's chamber as fast as possible. In the boss's room, Choi, Seiran, and John were still trying to grasp the situation. According to the plan, the dungeon boss should have been an emoji, yet what they encountered defied explanation. The only emoji present was dead, and instead, a lich sat upon a throne, a completely unexpected presence. Choi suspected someone had tampered with the dungeon. John and Seiran, feeling confused, questioned Choi about how the lich got there. The lich then stood up from the throne, resurrected the dead emoji, and commanded it to attack. Choi quickly ordered everyone to get behind him as the emoji launched a swift assault. Choi dodged the attack, while John and Seiran, refusing to stand idle, joined the battle. Seiran used icy arrows, and John unleashed his rising dragon fist against the massive emoji. However, despite their intense assault, the emoji remained largely unaffected. Choi shouted a warning to the group, advising them to take down the lich first, as it was controlling the emoji. Charging at the lich, Choi was seized mid-attack by the emoji, which began squeezing him tightly. Choi felt the air leave his lungs, blaming his own impulsiveness for the predicament. Just as he was resigning to his fate, a powerful strike from Taijin and Hyun sent the emoji sprawling to the ground. Hyun expressed relief at their successful arrival, while Choi, still in shock, felt grateful to be alive, though puzzled by their timely appearance. Choi quickly raised his voice, warning Taijin and Hyun, who were celebrating their arrival, of the emoji's presence behind them and urged them to move immediately. The two narrowly dodged the emoji's next attack. Taijin questioned Choi about the situation, noting that the combination of a lich and an emoji made this level far too challenging for a B-rank assessment. Choi speculated that someone might have manipulated the assessment settings, potentially to prevent any trainees from passing and possibly to benefit or control certain guilds. Taijin responded, claiming he understood, although he truly didn't, and suggested they focus on defeating the lich to clear the dungeon. Choi agreed, admitting he didn't like working with Taijin, but that circumstances left him no choice. Taijin replied that the feeling was mutual, calling it a temporary alliance. Each unleashed their best skills, and Taijin eagerly asked Hyun if he could still absorb more fireballs, to which Hyun, showing signs of fatigue, responded wearily. At that moment, the emoji gathered venom in its mouth and unexpectedly spat it toward them. Choi shouted, warning Taijin to stay alert. Taijin gathered a fireball, assuring Choi that he was keeping an eye on the attack. Using 20% of its power, he successfully neutralized the poisonous assault and struck the emoji. Choi seized the moment, preparing his spears and activating the second stance of the heavenly spear. He shouted, vowing to destroy the beast. Choi charged forward with lightning speed. As the flames from the fireball scorched the emoji, he delivered a powerful strike with his sharp spears, successfully defeating it under the lich's astonished gaze. Seiran pointed out that this was the perfect time to attack the lich, now defenseless. John, eager for his moment of glory, declared that as a great fighter, he wouldn't miss such an opportune strike. He delivered a powerful punch directly at the lich, landing it in a vulnerable spot. Excited, Taijin had Hyun absorb another fireball, telling him that they made a strong team and could not lose as long as they worked together, encouraging him to give his best in the final attack. Hyun, though exhausted, agreed and absorbed the fireball, dashing forward and inflicting severe wounds on the lich. Choi thought they had succeeded, but all of them were stunned when they realized the lich was still alive, their attack insufficient to bring it down. Instead, the attack seemed to have enraged the lich, prompting it to unleash its magic by summoning spikes from beneath the ground, causing serious injuries to the entire team. Taijin pondered that no matter how powerful the lich was, it couldn't be invulnerable to such attacks. He felt something was missing, suspecting they didn't have complete information about the lich. Miri then appeared, reminding Taijin of her presence and explaining the difficulties she faced in downloading an app, expressing her eagerness to continue fighting using the map hacking key. Confused, Taijin asked her what she meant by map hacking, and suddenly a system window appeared, beginning to load information about the dungeon. Taijin watched in amazement as the process completed, showing a notification that the dungeon map would be rebuilt according to the new information, and a navigation grid appeared on the ground. The system announced the activation of green navigation, though Taijin was unfamiliar with it. Miri explained that this feature would allow him to gain extensive information about the dungeon, including the energy paths the enemy used in their skills, hidden paths, and available rewards. She added that he could learn much about dungeons with this feature, and that she had downloaded several other applications, advising him to use them wisely during the battle. Taijin began reviewing the information provided by the navigation system, astonished, remarking that it wasn't merely a map hack, but more like a personal assistant. He could hardly believe that such a feature existed, as Tai-Jin discovered, just as Choi had suspected, that the true boss of the dungeon was a B-class emoji. He began questioning the Lich's identity and how it had ended up here. The Lich laughed loudly, activating the green translation feature, and Tai-Jin understood the Lich's words. Eratos is most pleased. Tai-Jin was shocked, feeling the situation growing more frightening, and asked Miri if she had any idea what was happening. She admitted that she didn't have enough information, suggesting that it might be a system error. The Lich laughed again, declaring that the gathering of so many humans here made Eratos grateful to the contractor. Miri, puzzled by the statement, told Tai-Jin that the translator might be malfunctioning. However, Tai-Jin doubted this, thinking the translator seemed to be functioning accurately. The Lich's mention of a contractor hinted that someone may have summoned it to this dungeon. Choi struggled to his feet despite his injuries, asking Tai-Jin if he could still move, relieved that he had narrowly avoided any fatal injuries. Tai-Jin replied, uncertain if Choi would believe him, that he thought he had uncovered the monster's weakness. Surprised, Choi asked how he made this discovery, but Tai-Jin interrupted, saying there was no time to explain, and that Choi needed to trust him and work together. Observing Tai-Jin's serious expression, Choi considered the plan carefully and asked about the next step. Tai-Jin smirked slyly, stating that their first move was to provoke and enrage the Lich. Tai-Jin taunted the Lich, mockingly asking why it hadn't attacked yet, insinuating that perhaps its brain had stopped working. Enraged, the Lich retorted that such insolence would lead to an early death, vowing to kill them all. Fueled by fury, the Lich unleashed its magical power, causing the cave to tremble as spikes erupted from the ground. Tai-Jin quickly shouted for everyone to get behind him immediately. Spikes emerged everywhere with greater intensity than before, but the team narrowly avoided them just in time. Tai-Jin was thrilled that the navigation system had allowed him to anticipate the Lich's attacks and evade them, boosting his confidence in the success of his plan. Tai-Jin continued to provoke the Lich, mockingly pointing out that none of its attacks had landed, laughing and suggesting it should practice aiming before trying to engage with them again. Choi grew concerned about the intensity of Tai-Jin's provocations, fearing the Lich's retaliation. Sure enough, the Lich's anger escalated, and it began hurling flaming skulls at them. Tai-Jin observed the trajectory of the attack and shouted instructions, directing John to move 3 steps to the right and Hyun 5 steps back. The skulls missed them entirely, leaving everyone astonished by their ability to evade the devastating assault and pleased by the success of Tai-Jin's plan. The Lich, impressed by their dodging, raised its voice, warning that it would demonstrate true evasion in the next attack. The pressure in the chamber intensified, and everyone sensed the impending danger of the next assault. Choi shouted, asking Tai-Jin how they could avoid it. Tai-Jin noted the attack's trajectory and realized that it covered their entire bodies and the entirety of the dungeon. He deduced that the only way to evade it was to head straight toward the Lich. The team charged toward the Lich's position with all their might as it unleashed its death's prayer, an attack that blanketed the dungeon. The Lich taunted them, saying that their constant evasion would only make it easier for him to cast a spell they could not escape. Emerging from the smoky haze surrounding the Lich, Tai-Jin shouted at Seiran to quickly use her cooling technique on it. The Lich was startled, expressing disbelief that anyone could survive its attack and reach its position unscathed. The secret behind their success lay in Death's Prayer, which grew stronger the farther one was from its center, while its effectiveness dropped to just 10% at the core. Using the navigation system, Tai-Jin had discovered this and minimized the damage with the icy shields Seiran had created. Tai-Jin yelled that this was their chance. Seiran responded, stating she would handle it, and used her Frost Winds technique to freeze the Lich in place. Immobilized, the Lich acknowledged their skill, commending them for disrupting Eratos' attack, but scoffed, assuring them that their efforts would not affect it. Tai-Jin instructed Seiran to maintain the freeze and prevent any movement at all costs, then dashed away to a different location, catching the Lich off guard. The Lich questioned his destination, stunned by the possibility that Tai-Jin might have uncovered its secret. Tai-Jin pondered that the Lich, summoned by a contract, used the sacrifices of the contractor as vessels. As long as these vessels remained intact, the Lich would stay in a near-immortal state. Rushing toward a fortified cell with iron bars, Tai-Jin discovered a cursed protected chest, realizing that this chest was the Lich's main body. If they could destroy it, the summoning could be cancelled. Meanwhile, the Lich, seething with anger, screamed, demanding how Tai-Jin dared deceive Eratos. Breaking Seiran's freezing spell, it charged at Tai-Jin, vowing to show no mercy. Tai-Jin attempted to evade the Lich's assault, but it closed in, nearly striking him directly. At the last second, Choi and the team intervened, blocking the Lich's attack. With a mocking tone, Choi addressed the Lich, asking where it thought it was going and warning it not to move without permission. He attacked the Lich with his spears at full force, successfully halting its pursuit of Tai-Jin. Choi held the Lich down, with Hyun assisting to restrain it and prevent movement. Choi urged Tai-Jin to continue his plan, assuring him they would keep the situation under control. Tai-Jin thanked Choi and continued toward the chest, leaping with force to break through the protective barrier and reach it. Choi kept a vigilant eye eye on the situation as he pinned the lich down, wondering about the weaknesses Tai-Jin had discovered and whether they related to this location. At that moment, the lich, overcome with rage, shouted that it was impossible. No one could locate the chest except for itself and the contractor. Breaking free from Choi's grasp, the lich lunged at Tai-Jin, desperate to stop him before he could act on the chest, but it was too late. Tai-Jin seized the chest and faced the lich, threatening to smash it if it attempted anything. The lich, taken aback, questioned how Tai-Jin could understand the ancient language it spoke. Tai-Jin, in a warning tone, told it to listen carefully. He proposed that if the lich cooperated with them, they might spare its life. The lich replied that it had been summoned by the contractor and could only obey or respond to the contractor's orders. Tai-Jin, slightly exasperated, explained that if the chest were destroyed, the contract would be nullified, granting the lich freedom. Stunned, the lich expressed disbelief, claiming that only a powerful sorcerer could cancel the contract, yet Tai-Jin appeared to be an ordinary person. Tai-Jin responded confidently, asking if he really seemed like an ordinary person. Realizing that Tai-Jin had not only deduced its powers and attack patterns, but also discovered the location of the cursed chest, the lich wondered if Tai-Jin truly had the ability to break the contract. Finally, it conceded, agreeing to trust his word this time. The lich asked Tai-Jin if he had any wishes, promising that Eratos would fulfill them. Tai-Jin, surprised by the lich's sudden shift in tone, felt it was time to wrap things up, but requested the lich release all the skeletons it had summoned outside first. The lich, puzzled, asked Tai-Jin how that could be done. Tai-Jin explained that someone specific must have summoned those skeletons before they entered, and that person was likely Eratos, as the skeletons had been blocking the rest of the team from entering. He added that the green navigation system had indicated this information. Tai-Jin warned the lich that if he discovered any deception, he would personally take its head. Reluctantly, the lich agreed, and Tai-Jin admitted they now understood each other, at least on some level. The lich then asked respectfully if Tai-Jin had any other requests or wishes. Pausing briefly, Tai-Jin replied with his usual greed, demanding that the lich give him everything it had. The lich was shocked, visibly unsettled, and wondered at Tai-Jin's sudden, bold request without any preamble. Tai-Jin slyly remarked that the lich must have some tools or accessories he could offer. The lich, irritated, replied that he had nothing useful to give. Tai-Jin's gaze settled on the lich's staff, commenting that it might prove helpful. The lich immediately recoiled, refusing to part with it. With an innocent smile, Tai-Jin threatened to break the chest, forcing the lich to hand over the staff reluctantly. The lich then pleaded with Tai-Jin to cancel the contract, promising to fulfill any request in return. Tai-Jin, feigning confusion, responded that he had no idea how to cancel it. The lich, stunned, fell silent, and Tai-Jin mocked him, asking how he could cancel a contract without even knowing how to perform summoning magic, his tone dripping with sarcasm as he requested the lich to speak clearly. Furious, the lich's energy flared around him as he screamed, threatening Tai-Jin for daring to insult Eratos. Tai-Jin quickly warned that if the lich came any closer, he would destroy the cursed chest. With that, he smashed the chest containing the lich's main body. The lich began to fade, lamenting his end, saying that manifesting as the great Eratos had been his greatest opportunity before he vanished dramatically. Tai-Jin, smiling, commented to Miri that the lich had been rather dignified and charismatic, even in death. Miri agreed, and Tai-Jin picked up a finger from the ground, wondering aloud if this was the contractor's sacrifice. He speculated that the contractor must have considered it important enough to sacrifice a finger to summon the lich. Miri wondered who might have summoned it, suggesting that the summoner was likely targeting Tai-Jin. Tai-Jin, unfazed, replied that it didn't matter now. As long as he acquired powerful items, he was satisfied. Miri remarked that he was a shamelessly materialistic person, then pointed out another item still lying on the ground. Tai-Jin moved toward it, examining it and commenting that he didn't know what it was, but if it was part of the lich's setup, it had to be valuable. Just then, Choi and the rest of the team arrived, asking if he was all right. Tai-Jin discreetly stored the staff before they reached him, assuring them that he was in excellent shape. Surprised, Choi asked if he had actually managed to defeat the lich alone. Tai-Jin boasted that he had indeed vanquished it completely, leaving no trace. Though reluctant, John admitted that what Tai-Jin had done was impressive and worthy of recognition as a skilled hunter. Hyun and Saren also praised Tai-Jin, noting that his feat was remarkable, especially since he had taken down the monster by himself. Choi approached Tai-Jin seriously, and with some embarrassment, apologized for his past attempt to poison and push him off the edge, admitting that he had instructed Hyun to carry out the act. Choi explained that his jealousy of Tai-Jin's growth and increasing strength, despite lacking natural talent, had driven him to such actions, expressing deep regret. Tai-Jin smiled, telling him that if he was going to apologize, he should do so properly. Annoyed, Choi asked what he meant, to which Tai-Jin replied indifferently, suggesting they forget the past and celebrate his promotion to a B-class hunter by having dinner together next time. Choi offered to cover the bill, then leaned in, asking if Tai-Jin was interested in Suna. Tai-Jin, taken aback, teased Choi, suggesting that he seemed infatuated with her. Choi, flustered and embarrassed, insisted that it wasn't as it appeared. Before the conversation could continue, Hyun interrupted, pointing out a portal that had had appeared in the area. Delighted, everyone recognized it as the exit portal that would finally return them to the real world. Hyun expressed his excitement, declaring that he would feast to his heart's content to make up for the exhaustion of the battle. Taijin announced that it was time to head back, but as soon as he felt the danger had passed, his stomach rumbled with hunger. Upon exiting the portal, they found a crowd of hunters waiting outside, congratulating them on passing the evaluation to become B-class hunters. Taijin was surprised to see prominent hunters among those present, such as Seo Yun-hwa from the Sky Guild and Mate Byung-min from the Hwarang Guild, both top hunters in the country. Taijin wondered why they were there. Mate began speaking, noting evidence that someone had tampered with the dungeon's settings. She pointed out several anomalies, such as the transformation of the emoji into a zombie, the unexpected appearance of the Lich, and the unusually high number of monsters that should not have been there. She concluded that all these events could be orchestrated by a powerful entity seeking control over either the Sky Guild or the Hwarang Guild. Mate then stepped closer to Taijin, accusing him of being responsible for everything that happened. Taijin, along with Seiran and Jeon, was shocked by Seo's words. Seiran asked what she meant, while Jeon argued that Taijin had fought alongside them against the monsters, making it impossible for him to be the culprit. Seo replied that their statements implied Taijin had handled the task alone, adding that they had monitored his battle against the Lich through a live feed. They had seen how he dodged the Lich's attacks based on calculated moves, discovered the hidden location, but couldn't see what was concealed there. Seo added that suspicion grew because a D-class hunter like Taijin wasn't supposed to possess such critical information used during the fight. Doubt began to creep into Seiran and John's minds. Seo approached Taijin and asked if he had prior knowledge of the Lich's presence in the dungeon. Taijin found himself in a tough spot as he genuinely had no prior information. Mate then questioned his hesitation, threatening to turn him into fried potatoes if he didn't answer quickly. Taijin, realizing Mate was serious, felt a surge of fear and tried to calm himself, thinking of a way out. Recalling his battle with the Lich and the contractor's sacrifice, Taijin began speaking, telling them he would explain everything if they listened for a few minutes. He started recounting his childhood dream of becoming a mage, which surprised Seo and Mate, as it seemed unrelated to the current situation. Taijin continued, explaining that since childhood, he had been interested in magic, the characteristics of undead skills, and their weaknesses, which allowed him to deduce that the Lich's weakness was hidden in a specific spot. Seo scoffed, saying it was hard to believe such nonsense. Taijin replied that if she didn't believe him, he would provide proof. All the hunters were astonished when Taijin produced the contractor's finger, explaining that he found it inside the cursed chest, and confirming it as evidence that someone had made a pact with the Lich. He pointed out that Choi's statement was correct. The original dungeon boss was the B-class emoji, and someone had summoned the Lich to create chaos and sabotage the test. He urged them to consider that the Lich couldn't disobey the contractor's orders, meaning none of the hunters who had faced its lethal attacks could have been involved in summoning it. Seo reflected on Taijin's words, realizing his explanation made sense. If Taijin had been the one manipulating the test, there would have been no reason for him to protect the other hunters from the Lich's attacks. Mate, visibly agitated, asked who could be behind it, wondering if the culprit was someone from the Black Magic Guild. Taijin, smiling confidently, declared that the truth was obvious and that the culprit was among them. Raising his voice, he requested that the hunters search everyone's hands in the hall for any missing marks. The hunters began checking hands until they noticed someone looking tense, who suddenly bolted from the scene. Realizing that he was likely the owner of the missing finger, everyone chased after him immediately. Miri looked at Taijin in amazement, asking how he knew the culprit was among them. Taijin, nonchalant, replied that this was the usual outcome in detective stories, where they catch the suspect this way. Miri rolled her eyes at his flimsy explanation. Mate called out to Seo, requesting her help to catch the fugitive. Seo assured him that she wouldn't let the culprit escape, using her power to create walls around him, trapping him in place. Mate lunged at the man, scolding him for daring to approach the trainees and attempting to harm them, vowing never to forgive him. He used his Dragon Strike skill to attack, but was taken aback when the man collapsed to the ground, foaming at the mouth. He had taken his own life to avoid capture. Mate ordered his hunters to quickly take the body to the Alliance headquarters to investigate the man's background, origins, and intentions. Seo, reflecting on what had happened, pondered who would resort to dark magic to target the Sky Guild and the Hwarang Guild. She resolved to uncover the identity of the person responsible, no matter who they were. Approaching Taijin, she apologized for doubting him and misunderstanding the situation, promising to make it up to him. But before she could finish, Taijin suddenly collapsed, his mana completely drained. They rushed to provide him with medical aid and took him to a safe place. A short while later, Taijin opened his eyes, wondering where he was, only to find Choi and Suna by his side. He noticed the happiness on Suna's face as she told him she'd come as soon as she heard he had collapsed, worried about him. Choi, with a smirk, commented that he was only there to check if Taijin was alive or dead. Suna, concerned, asked why he'd pushed himself so far to the point of exhaustion, mentioning that the doctors had struggled to treat him and that he'd left a strong impression in the B-class evaluation. Curious, Taijin listened grinned as Suna pulled out her phone, showing him the trending news online where people were talking about his achievement and how he had single-handedly defeated the Lich. Taijin took the phone, seeing the positive comments and admiration for his performance. Feeling a hint of jealousy, Choi remarked that everyone was talking as if Taijin had defeated the Lich alone, adding that without him, Taijin wouldn't have accomplished anything. Suna playfully teased Choi, pointing out that the video clearly showed Taijin handling everything. Taijin smiled happily, recalling memories of their last gathering as friends. Just then, Hunter Seo entered the room, asking if Taijin was awake. The three of them were surprised by her presence, and Taijin asked why she had come. Seo confidently told him that she owned the entire hospital and managed it, so the moment he collapsed, he was immediately brought to their guild's hospital. She reassured him, saying he could rest here without worry, and that she owed him a debt for all he had done. Surprised, Taijin asked Seo about the debt she owed him. She explained that she was grateful for him saving the guild's sweetheart, Hunter Siren. Taijin laughed sarcastically, asking what she meant by the guild's sweetheart. Seo replied that she had feared she might never see Siren's lovely face again, and the mere thought of that possibility broke her heart. Leaning in confidently, she told him that he could ask anything of her, and she would fulfill any request he made. Taijin told Seo that nothing came to mind at the moment, prompting her to laugh as she assured him there was no rush. She encouraged him to take his time and left the room, mentioning she'd always be on the top floor, and he could visit her to make a request once he was fully recovered. Suna, feeling proud of him, asked when he had grown to become such a remarkable hunter, reminiscing about how he used to be the lost young hunter who didn't even know how to fight a monster. Now, he had become someone they could all be proud of. Taijin, embarrassed, asked her to stop, while Choi watched with a hint of jealousy over the attention Taijin was receiving from Suna. With excitement, Suna asked Taijin if he had thought about what he might request from Seo. Taijin replied that he hadn't decided yet, noting that since they were talking about Seo Yunhua, the Vice Guild leader and one of the best magical hunters, it might be wise to request a magical item or something related to magic. As he began to contemplate which magical item he could ask for, Suna reminded him to focus on his recovery first and worry about his request later. She handed him a juice and encouraged him to rest well, then took Choi's hand, mentioning that they had plans and would visit him again later. Taijin bid them farewell, reminding them to stay safe on their way. After they left, Miri appeared, commenting on how Taijin had a lot to think about, adding that having a powerful and beautiful woman like Seo offer him a favor was unbelievable. Annoyed, Taijin told her to stop the nonsense, then began considering what he should ask from Seo. At first he thought of money but quickly dismissed the idea, realizing that asking an S-class hunter for money seemed trivial and foolish. He felt he should request something invaluable and started pondering what he truly needed. At that moment, Miri asked about the items he had acquired previously, informing him that they were automatically saved in his green store. Taijin, puzzled, inquired about this green store. Miri laughed mischievously, saying she had been waiting for him to ask. She explained that the green store was a massive platform for trading second-hand goods, boasting around 100 million users from different dimensions and places. This meant he could find a wide range of items at reasonable prices, and if he joined now, he would receive VVIP membership perks, including completely secure transfers with no fees. Taijin sarcastically asked if they were paying her for this advertisement. Still, the thought of people from other dimensions using the same store lingered in his mind. According to Miri, he was the only person on Earth with access to the latest system interface, allowing him to buy artifacts from other dimensions and sell Earth-based products in the green store, effectively granting him a unique monopoly on this interdimensional market. Taijin felt that luck was finally on his side, and that wealth would soon flow endlessly into his hands. Filled with excitement, he declared that he would register immediately and call the server to collect all those valuable items. He pressed the call option, and as the server loaded, anticipation swelled within him until he finally connected. Suddenly, he found himself in a strange place filled with merchants from every corner, promoting their diverse wares. Disappointed, he remarked that the place resembled free mobile games. Mary replied, advising that knowing what he knows is better than venturing into the unknown, and suggested that, since they were already there, they should take a tour. Taijin and Mary approached a merchant and asked about the prices. The merchant happily presented him with a shield, inviting him to inspect it freely. A system window appeared, showing that the shield was of B grade, crafted from dragon scales and infused with dragon essence, giving it a very high defensive capability. It cost 18,000 green coins, which surprised Taijin. He asked Mary about the value of this amount. Mary admitted she had forgotten to explain the currency system, and clarified that the 18,000 coins equaled roughly 240,000 magic stones, which was more than 1 billion won, explaining that this was the average price range in the shop. Disappointed, Taijin told her that the prices there exceeded his purchasing power. At that moment, he recalled the items he had obtained from the Lich and wanted to know their value if sold here. He retrieved the Lich's staff from storage and asked the armor merchant about its worth. The merchant examined it briefly before returning it, explaining that it was unusable due to a strong curse surrounding it, and that unless the user was a powerful enough mage to lift the curse, it couldn't be sold. Shocked by the notion of a curse, Tai-Jin realized it was indeed unusable. He took out the other item he had obtained and asked the merchant about its value, only to be told that it might be worth at most 10 green coins, which dealt him another blow due to the low price. Leaving the place disheartened, Tai-Jin told Mary that he had expected to become a millionaire upon entering this market. Mary tried to console him, saying that every great achievement starts small, and with time, he would be able to make substantial profits, urging him to stay optimistic. As they talked, a stranger approached and asked if Tai-Jin was interested in selling the crystal item he was holding, requesting a closer look at it. A system window appeared, indicating that the starry demon lord had requested a trade and asking if Tai-Jin wished to accept or decline. Tai-Jin moved closer, saying the item was merely junk. The demon lord laughed, stating he didn't mind, and urged him to accept the request. As he examined the crystal, he told Tai-Jin that it could become significantly valuable if enhanced, offering to cover the enhancement costs. Tai-Jin happily thanked him, expressing deep gratitude, but the demon lord clarified that he had one condition. If Tai-Jin failed a single enhancement, he would be responsible for covering all enhancement costs. Tai-Jin was taken aback by this condition, noticing the shift in the demon lord's tone as he reassuringly stated, in a devilish manner, that everything would be free if Tai-Jin succeeded. Mary leaned in close to Tai-Jin, whispering that this person seemed like a complete scammer, and advised him to ignore him. Tai-Jin agreed, recognizing that this person was preying on newcomers to the market, deceiving them into believing their items could be upgraded into priceless tools. Of course, nothing happens to the items, and new players end up paying the full enhancement costs. Only the naive fall for such a scam. However, an idea strikes Tai-Jin, and he asks the demon if he can stop the enhancement process anytime he wishes. The demon confirms that he can halt it at any moment. Smiling triumphantly, Tai-Jin requests to start the enhancement immediately. Mary tries to stop him, asking what he's doing and warning that he'll lose all his money before he even begins. Tai-Jin reassures her, saying there's no need to worry. He has a solid plan to win. Mary wonders about this plan, and he responds that he has a strategy, encouraging her to just watch. His tone turns dark, assuring her that he'll show her how he'll break the luck-based rules of the game. The game's rules are simple. Tai-Jin can continue enhancing until he decides to stop, and if he succeeds in completing all enhancements, the starry demon lord covers the costs. However, if he fails even once, Tai-Jin will bear all costs, no matter how high. The higher the success rate, the greater the risk of loss. The demon smirks, telling Tai-Jin he now has 100 green coins and all the resources for enhancement ready to begin. He asks if Tai-Jin needs help choosing the right spot for enhancement, to which Tai-Jin responds that he doesn't need any specific place for the first attempt, starting the process simply and without hesitation. The crystal item begins to enhance, and the first attempt succeeds, upgrading it to an E-grade crystal, granting its holder an extra strength point. The demon comments that Tai-Jin was lucky, as the first enhancement has an 80% success rate, praising him and asking if he's satisfied with this or will continue. Tai-Jin laughs slyly, saying in a sinister tone that he will perform 9 consecutive enhancements in one go, challenging the demon to back out if he's afraid. The demon feels slightly anxious, but asks Tai-Jin if he's sure about pursuing 9 consecutive enhancements. Tai-Jin provokes him, questioning if he's scared to the point of not wanting to start. The demon thinks to himself that Tai-Jin is foolish, not realizing that the chance of success for 9 consecutive enhancements is less than 0.001%. The demon retorts, warning Tai-Jin not to boast too much to avoid looking bad if he loses, then accepts the challenge. Tai-Jin eagerly begins the enhancement process. Mary, shocked, questions his actions, while the demon laughs darkly, claiming Tai-Jin has fallen into the trap, and now all enhancement costs are on him. But before he can finish, Tai-Jin smugly informs him of his success. The crystal reaches A grade, increasing all the holder's stats by 10%. The demon is stunned, beginning to panic, wondering how Tai-Jin succeeded in 9 consecutive enhancements without a single failure. He questions if Tai-Jin is some kind of game master and thinks he can't let him get away, believing he must push him to try another enhancement. He approaches Tai-Jin, congratulating him on his success and mentioning that he's only 1 enhancement away from reaching the maximum level, encouraging him not to give up now. Tai-Jin seriously considers it, realizing that, thanks to his unique, extraordinary growth skill, he achieved a 100% success rate for 9 attempts. However, the chance of reaching the final enhancement level, even with his skill, is no more than 10%. If he risks everything now and fails, he'd be forced to sell even his clothes to pay off the enhancement costs. He feels satisfied with his current stats and upgrades, but his curiosity gnaws at him, wondering about the immense power he might gain. Unable to resist, he tells the demon he agrees, but they must set one condition first. The demon, intrigued, asks about the nature of this condition. Tai-Jin replies that he wants to go to the most suitable location the demon mentioned earlier. The most suitable location was a high cliff overlooking the ocean, where gamblers gathered to test their luck. Standing there, Tai-Jin felt the refreshing breeze, remarking that he could sense the misery and suffering of everyone who had lost their items in this place. Mary asked if enhancing items here would increase his chances of success, to which Taijin responded that there was no such effect at all. Frustrated, she asked why they had come to this place, and he calmly explained that luck has a certain flow, noting that if there's even a 10% or 1% chance, success is still possible. The challenge lies in determining the perfect moment when the flow of luck is on their side. If they can pinpoint that timing, they can overcome any unfavorable odds. Mary admitted his words seemed somewhat convincing, but still questioned the purpose of their visit. Taijin replied in a calm tone, "Can't you hear them? The cries of all these items here give me a strong sense of when to start enhancing and when to stop." Feeling that luck was currently on his side, he excitedly pressed the enhancement option, announcing this as his final decisive attempt. The enhancement process began under everyone's watchful eyes, with the demon observing him, convinced that Taijin was just a fool who had fallen into his trap, believing he had no chance of success, as the probability of 10 consecutive successful enhancements was virtually zero. Everyone waited in suspense, their voices low and tense, until Taijin broke the silence with a victorious shout, announcing his success. A notification appeared, stating that the crystal had become a rare gem, amplifying all stats more than tenfold. The crowd was astonished, murmuring in amazement at Taijin's achievement. It was the first time they had seen an item enhanced to such a powerful level. However, the demon refused to believe what had happened, erupting in anger and accusing Taijin of cheating, claiming it was impossible to achieve such results without illegal programs. Taijin taunted him with a sarcastic smile, questioning who the real fraud was, pointing out that the demon had tried to lure new members into the shop by pretending to help them, posing as some kind of angel. Furious, the demon threatened to report Taijin for cheating, declaring he would never allow him into the market or shop again. But just as he tried to act on his threat, he received a notification that the user had blocked him. Taijin left the market with a smile, bidding the demon farewell. "Goodbye, fool!" the demon screamed, demanding his money back, but Taijin had already returned to his world, lying in his hospital bed, feeling delighted. He remarked that he was incredibly lucky to obtain an enhanced item without spending a dime. Mary told him he had taken quite a risk, asking what he would have done if he had lost, and how he would have repaid the debts. Taijin replied that if he had lost, he would have simply run away, confident that no one could catch him. He laughed devilishly, saying that he was the one who controlled the game according to his whims. He took out the Lich's staff from his storage, commenting that he had also gained valuable information from the market and might eventually find a way to use this item. Meanwhile, at the Sky Guild Hospital, in Vice President Seo's office, a knock on the door interrupted her. She allowed the visitor in, and Taijin entered, greeting her politely. Seo asked if he was feeling better now. He replied that he hadn't fully recovered, but at least he was able to move and walk. Seo laughed, noting that his presence now indicated he had made his decision about his request. She thought to herself that Taijin had been the undisputed top-ranked hunter in the recent evaluation, and if her intuition was right, he would continue to grow and develop, eventually becoming the #1 hunter among all hunters in Korea. Taijin approached Seo's office and told her that what he needed was her ability. As they walked through the guild building, Seo asked him what he intended to do with her power, and if it was customary for him to speak this way with his superiors. Taijin responded by asking if he had said anything wrong, to which Seo told him not to worry, and that perhaps she was the one with the issue. She then laughed awkwardly, leaving Taijin wondering what he might have said that could cause a misunderstanding or a problem. They took the elevator down to the 3rd basement level, where a special room awaited them. Seo asked if his request was really just to lift a curse, noting that it was simpler than she expected, and requested that he hand her the item. He handed her the staff, explaining it was the same one he mentioned during the B-rank evaluation test. Seo confirmed it indeed was. She began using her magical abilities, saying she would identify the types of curses on it and that it wouldn't take long. Seo displayed her magical prowess, astonishing Taijin and Mary, who were witnessing the spell removal technique for the first time. This skill analyzed and nullified the structure and formula of the targeted spell. Since a curse was a complex type of enchantment, no matter how powerful, it became ineffective before this skill. Taijin used his S-grade enhanced crystal, part of Seo's ability, which allowed her to replicate skills through comprehensive scanning and store them for user access. Taijin felt thrilled as his plan was proceeding successfully. He didn't just want to lift the curse from the staff, but also aimed to acquire Seo's skill. He positioned the crystal carefully to copy the skill with precision. As Seo focused on lifting the curse, a sudden disturbance occurred, and a monster emerged from the staff, attempting to attack her. Taijin was shocked to see the creature injure Seo, and he rushed to her side with concern, asking about the creature's origin. Taijin lunged at the monster with a powerful kick, eager to copy the skill without further interruptions, but he was surprised to find that physical attacks had no effect on the entity. He then used 20% of the flaming orb's power, launching it at the creature, which made it retreat slightly. Taijin asked Seo if she was all right, or if her injury was severe. She assured him it wasn't fatal, admitting she made a mistake by lowering her defenses, as she hadn't anticipated such an event. Taijin inquired about the nature of this creature and where it had suddenly come from, to which Seo responded that it wasn't a monster. Puzzled, Taijin asked how that could be. Seo explained explained that, while her statement might sound illogical, what they were facing was the curse itself, manifested as a creature. Taijin asked if what was attached to the staff was indeed a cursed spirit rather than just a curse, and Seo confirmed that the curse was deeper than she had anticipated. The only way to dispel it without damaging the staff was through a banishment spell. The problem, however, was that Seo had been afflicted with a weakening skill when the spirit attacked her, rendering her unable to perform the banishment spell in her current state. She told Taijin that their only option now was to force the spirit to leave on its own. Apologetically, she admitted she felt embarrassed for not being able to fulfill his request this time, but promised to do so next time. Taijin was taken aback, as this wasn't what he wanted. In this state, the curse wouldn't be lifted, nor would he be able to copy the skill. He began to worry and tried to think of a solution to prevent this scenario from unfolding. Taijin shouted, asking Seo if she had the ability to channel energy. She replied that she did, and asked why he needed it. Taijin requested her to lend him the banishment spell temporarily, stating that he would handle the situation himself. Seo responded that the cursed spirit wasn't something he could deal with by merely borrowing power or skill for a short time, as it was a high-level curse requiring complex spell structures and precise calculations. Even for her, banishing the spirit would take a considerable amount of time. Taijin insisted that he was aware of the difficulty, but asked her to trust him a little. Seo looked at him, contemplating his determination, then sighed, saying he seemed adamant about removing the curse no matter what. She began explaining that the banishment spell required high-level calculations, and instructed him to focus and listen carefully, notifying her when he was ready, as the duration of the boost wouldn't last long. Seo began channeling energy into Taijin's body, transferring the banishment spell to him. Taijin felt a surge of excitement, receiving a notification that he had gained an enhancement from the S-grade energy infusion skill, allowing him to use the banishment spell. Thrilled, he realized that he could now handle the spell himself if Seo couldn't manage the cursed spirit. He checked the position of the copying crystal and informed Seo that he was ready. Following her guidance, Taijin started using the banishment spell, with Seo supplying him with the necessary energy. Notifications confirmed that the copying crystal had successfully replicated and stored the skill. Another notification appeared, indicating that he could combine the banishment spell with the calculator tool to perform the required calculations automatically. Seo asked if he could now see the mathematical formulas representing the spell's structure and began explaining the design. However, Taijin interrupted, saying he already understood. Seo was surprised and told him that intuition alone wouldn't suffice, as it was a complex matter. Taijin enthusiastically assured her that there was no need to worry, forming the formulas on his arm and launching an attack on the cursed spirit. He declared that he didn't care if it was a cursed spirit or anything else. He was determined to sell this item at any cost. His strike hit the curse, and it began to dissipate. Seo watched in astonishment, unable to believe that the curse was truly fading, impressed by Taijin's ability to comprehend magic that normally required at least 5 years of study, and how he was able to analyze and calculate the spell's structure independently. She admired Taijin's remarkable talent. Notifications appeared for Taijin, indicating that he had successfully banished the curse entirely, finally lifting the curse from Iratus's staff. Taijin turned to Seo and expressed his admiration for her, leaving Seo surprised by his remark. He went on to commend her skill in controlling such a challenging power, explaining that he now understood why S-rank hunters were in a league of their own compared to regular hunters. Seo thought to herself that Taijin had impressed her more than she expected, and worried he might feel pressured if he joined the Sky Guild. She told him, somewhat regretfully, that he should go to the Hwarang Guild, as its leader, Matty, had a special offer that might be greatly beneficial to him. At the Hwarang Guild, Matty was training as usual. He asked loudly if Taijin had come to witness the Dragon Fist skill, adding that if that was the case, he had made a wise choice, as this skill was the essence of martial arts. Matty advised him to watch closely, as this was a rare opportunity, then assumed his stance and rushed forward, demonstrating the Dragon Fist skill in a spectacular fashion before Taijin. Matty asked him what he thought of the display and whether he was impressed. Taijin replied that it was as amazing as always, but internally he was planning something else. He had come here intending to copy as many skills as he could from Matty. Taijin heads to the legendary guild to train with the new skills he copied, feeling immense joy at being able to replicate the techniques with original-level precision. He praises the copying crystal, thanking it for granting him high-quality martial arts for free. However, a notification appears, alerting him that the damage output for Dragon Fist will be reduced by 50% due to his current low power level. Frustrated, Taijin mutters that nothing comes free in this country, and wishes he had followed his old mentor's advice to train regularly. Another system notification follows, assigning him an urgent task to practice the Dragon Fist skill until he can fully develop it. Taijin realizes he'll need to practice it over 2,000 times, which could take around 10 continuous hours, and he feels a bit disheartened, wondering why things always have to be this difficult. But after thinking deeply, he compares these challenges to the 7 years of hardship he endured, deciding that this is nothing in comparison. Now determined to push his power to its peak, he resolves to give it his all. Taijin intensifies his energy, summoning training monsters and charging toward them to begin his training camp, while Mary cheers him on. At that moment, Suna arrives with some drinks, as usual, telling Taijin she brought him food to keep his energy up during training. She's taken aback when she notices his transformed physique and muscular form, wondering when he developed such a powerful build. Suna reflects on how Taijin's behavior has changed lately. Not long ago, he was the same person she knew, but now he has surpassed all expectations, achieving astonishing results in the B rank evaluation, drawing the attention of top guild leaders, including the Hwarang Guild's leader and the Sky Guild president. Suna feels as though Taijin is distancing himself from her and others, as if he broke out of a shell, now set to conquer all hunters. Though happy that everyone praises his abilities, she's unsettled by this rapid transformation, feeling as though he's drifting away from her. Suddenly, Guildmaster Cha appears behind her, asking if she seems confused, startling her. Cha smiles and mentions that he heard she borrowed the training room to practice a new sword skill, making her feel embarrassed for not asking his permission first. Cha reassures her, saying he's confident she wouldn't let anyone use the training room without his approval, then notices Taijin and comments that the powerful aura he sensed must have belonged to him. Guildmaster Cha approaches Taijin and greets him, congratulating him on his remarkable success in the B rank evaluation, noting that it was exactly as he anticipated and that his expectations never fail. Taijin chuckles modestly, thanking Cha for the compliment. Cha steps closer, asking if Taijin is still working as a freelance hunter, and Taijin confirms. Cha then tells him that this arrangement allows him to make an offer. Intrigued, Taijin listens as Cha explains that there's an upcoming exploration mission led by An, but a team member had to withdraw due to an injury. Suna interrupts before Cha can continue, cautioning that this mission might be a challenging one for someone at Taijin's level. Taijin asks about the level of the dungeon they'll be heading to, and Suna explains it's a second-level dungeon, appearing for the first time, so there's insufficient information about it, and they're uncertain about the dangers they might face. She adds that she doesn't want Taijin to be put in harm's way. Taijin listens to her words sympathetically, yet deep down, he feels she is underestimating his abilities. Cha laughed and told Taijin not to worry, assuring him that with his current level, he could easily clear the dungeon. He emphasized that the offer was not obligatory, but merely a suggestion, pointing out that training on real monsters would be far more effective than practicing on the illusionary ones available here. Taijin pondered this, recalling what the system had mentioned. The Dragon Fist would be 10 times stronger against real monsters. He decided to accept Cha's offer, but asked if he would receive all the magic stones earned while working with them as an independent hunter. As Taijin made his way to the dungeon gate, he received a flurry of notifications from team members on his phone, inquiring about his location and whether he would be late. Growing annoyed by the incessant messages, Mary expressed her concern, reminding him that the individual who tampered with the evaluation test had yet to be revealed and asking if he believed it was safe to move freely at such a time. Taijin reassured her, explaining that he would be with members of the legendary guild. Mary pressed him, asking if he could trust them completely. Taijin replied that the leaders of the Hwarang and legendary guilds, Maddie and Cha, had been close friends for 20 years, which ensured a good relationship among the guild members, making it almost impossible for the legendary guild to be responsible for any manipulation. With a confident tone, he added that even if hundreds of people sought to harm him, it wouldn't matter due to the Dragon Fist technique and the banishment spell he had just copied. Mary cautioned him that he might be overestimating his confidence, but he insisted that it was the truth, not just bravado. She warned him to keep his defenses up at all times. At the dungeon gate, Taijin found heavy security in place, and Suna called him over to meet her team members. Taijin recognized Yunshik and Ayong from the third team, as well as No, the youngest member of the group. He informed them that they could enter now that everyone was present, but Suna reminded him that there was still one person who hadn't arrived yet. Taijin inquired about this individual, and Suna explained that one of the team members had sustained an injury the day before, so they had enlisted another hunter. Just as she finished speaking, a loud vehicle approached from behind, and the driver yelled for Taijin to clear the way. Taijin turned to see who it was. A large, muscular man with a gang-like demeanor stepped out of the vehicle and began to insult Taijin, saying, "Who's the deaf one just standing there not listening?" Taijin was taken aback by the man's appearance, and Suna informed him that this was the hunter who would complete the team. Taijin approached the man with a smile to introduce himself, but the hunter shot him a murderous glance and completely ignored him, turning to the rest of the team and asking why they were wasting time waiting around. Suna stepped closer to Taijin, calming him down and explaining that this man had poor manners but a strong reputation in the hunting world. Taijin angrily asked about this person, and Suna replied that he was Kim Ji-heon, an A-rank hunter known for his rude demeanor and bad attitude. Though he possessed exceptional exceptional skills even among advanced hunters. She pointed out that the issue with him was that he exploited his status to claim all the magic stones for himself, leaving the rest of the team with no rewards, not even to fund treatment. She added that she preferred not to work with him for this reason. Taijin reflected on how this situation reminded him of the reasons behind his own past behavior, and that sometimes one meets people similar to them in life. He marveled at how he had never encountered someone like Jihaeon before, and he resolved to put him in his place. As they entered the dungeon, they immediately faced a monster. Suna reminded them to stay calm and focused, maintaining formation and moving forward slowly as these creatures behaved aggressively. Jihaeon decided to ignore Suna's instructions, advancing to attack the monsters on his own, commenting that he didn't have time to waste on low-level creatures. He quickly defeated them and remarked that his strength hadn't diminished with time. Suna reprimanded him for acting alone and disregarding coordination, emphasizing that they were there as a team to clear the dungeon together. She explained that his disregard for her instructions endangered not only his life, but the entire team's. Jihaeon replied rudely, claiming her overcautious approach as team leader rendered her ineffective and blaming leaders like her for the team's weak performance. He approached her, stating that only talented hunters earned fame and fortune. Walking away, he added that he couldn't believe hunters of her caliber led teams and that the world was headed for ruin. Taijin was angered by Jihaeon's attitude and looked forward to the moment he could confront him personally. The team reached an enormous castle, where Duke Duaz greeted them, introducing himself as the master of the cursed land. Suna politely thanked him for the welcome and inquired about the purpose of their summons, but Jihaeon interrupted, asking the Duke to get straight to the point. Duke Duaz explained that he hadn't planned to keep them there for long, and began describing the history of the land. He revealed that it had been sealed for ages to contain a great cursed evil, making it unsuitable for human habitation. He added that his ancestors had discovered an artifact that allowed them to suppress the cursed energy and purify the land, but someone had stolen it. Taijin confirmed that the artifact had been stolen, and Duke Duaz acknowledged this, explaining that the only way to restore the land was to retrieve the artifact, making it livable once again. He further explained that the thieves had broken the artifact into parts and distributed them across various locations, which was all he could share for now. Jihaeon laughed dismissively, remarking that the mission sounded like a mere treasure hunt for a cursed item, much easier than he had expected. No commented that the task seemed simple for a second-level dungeon, doubting they would encounter a dungeon monster on a search mission. Ayong clarified that the creatures guarding such artifacts were usually stronger than regular monsters. Suna, thinking aloud, speculated that there were likely 4 artifact pieces, possibly distributed in the 4 directions: north, south, east, and west. Jihaeon scoffed, saying it wasn't necessary to overthink and suggested splitting into pairs to search each direction. Suna countered that safety required them to stay unified, but Taijin interrupted, sarcastically agreeing with Jihaeon's suggestion. With a sinister tone, he added that he'd love to team up with Jihaeon if everyone agreed. The team consented to the plan, and Suna clarified that whichever team found a piece should head south to regroup and purify the area together. Taijin told Jihaeon cheerfully that he was happy to work with him and looked forward to finding the artifact together. Jihaeon, irritated, told him to avoid speaking to him throughout the mission. Taijin continued teasing, saying he was inspired by Jihaeon's earlier remarks to Suna about competent hunters who achieved fame and fortune and aspired to follow in the footsteps of a great hunter like him. Jihaeon, flattered, praised Taijin's attitude and asked his name again. Thus, the two became better acquainted during their journey, with Jihaeon promising to teach him as long as he stayed by his side. They arrived at a site filled with graves, and Taijin commented dryly that it didn't seem like a suspicious place at all. He asked Jihaeon if he thought this was a good spot to search for the artifact. Jihaeon laughed, telling Taijin that he sensed many monsters lurking in this place, trying their best to keep the artifact safe, and added that he'd eliminate them all if they appeared. Taijin politely asked if he could make a small request, to which Jihaeon responded arrogantly, asking what he wanted. Taijin, as a beginner hunter, requested permission to handle a small area on his own, as he feared he might get in Jihaeon's way. Jihaeon laughed smugly and agreed, saying he'd let Taijin train in that area as he pleased. Taijin thanked him warmly, promising to do his best. Jihaeon began to feel frustrated as no monsters appeared, wondering why they weren't coming out to face him. Meanwhile, Taijin found a monster, swiftly defeated it, and obtained a high-grade magic stone. Jihaeon chuckled at Taijin's luck, but quickly grew irritated, feeling left out as he had yet to claim his spoils. He wondered aloud why no monsters had appeared before him. Just then, Taijin called out, saying he'd found 3 more monsters and had taken care of them, assuring Jihaeon that everything was under control. Jihaeon grew increasingly annoyed, questioning why the monsters only seemed to appear near Taijin and wondering if Taijin somehow knew their positions in advance. In fact, Taijin was using the green navigation system to locate the monsters. However, Jihaeon dismissed the idea, assuming that Taijin, as a beginner, wouldn't have the experience to pinpoint monster locations so precisely. Taking a deep breath, Jihaeon decided to use a wide-range monster attraction skill and shouted loudly, demanding the monsters come out of hiding. Taijin was surprised to witness the wide attraction skill he'd been curious about before entering the dungeon. Suna explained that, as a fighter, Jihaeon didn't possess many unique skills, except this large-scale attraction ability. Suna was puzzled by Taijin's sudden interest in Jihaeon, and Taijin told her that it was a useful skill he could make good use of. During the battle, Taijin was pleased to see Jihaeon using his skill, but Jihaeon had underestimated the sheer number of monsters drawn to them by this ability, leaving him with little chance to fend them all off. Taking advantage of the situation, Taijin began hunting the monsters and collecting magic stones, as the number of incoming creatures steadily increased. Jihaeon, overwhelmed by the density and strength of the monsters, called out to Taijin, asking him to stop watching and help. Taijin responded that he preferred to stay in his designated area and didn't want to interfere, adding sarcastically that he didn't want to intrude. Jihaeon's anger flared, and he yelled at Taijin to stop messing around and come help him immediately. Taijin laughed mischievously, agreeing to help, but on the condition that Jihaeon wouldn't complain if he ended up defeating all the monsters himself. Taijin dashed toward the monsters, using the Dragon Fist skill he had copied from Maddie. Jihaeon watched in shock, having never expected Taijin, a mere B-rank hunter, to be this powerful. Before long, Taijin had eliminated the monsters, wiping sweat from his brow and commenting happily about the abundance of monsters that allowed him to collect a large number of magic stones. With a sly smile, Taijin told Jihaeon he owed him thanks for the help and promised to remain loyal to him. Jihaeon, trying to keep his composure, replied that since they had obtained the artifact, they could leave now, as there wouldn't be any additional rewards here. But Taijin countered, suggesting they help the rest of the team and gather more magic stones. He approached Jihaeon with a commanding tone, instructing him to use the attraction skill from now on.